Hey Generations family, Pastor George again. This week was so spectacular. Pastor Nicole took over the pulpit and she gave us a message entitled Stand. You're not going to want to miss it. Without further ado, Pastor Nicole.
It's going to be a very great day today. Happy Mother's Day. To all of our moms, our grandmas, our spiritual mothers, the women who lead, carry, and love. Thank you. Today, we celebrate you guys. You can clap for your mom, it's okay. On the flip side, though, I also want to acknowledge this. Mother's Day is a joyful day for many, but painful or complex for others. Some are celebrating, some are grieving, some are remembering, and some are longing. But to every single individual in this room, wherever today finds you, whether you're on the mountaintop or in the valley, I want to declare something over you. You are still standing. And it is not because it's been easy. Anyone else agree with that? Sometimes it's not always easy, but it's because God has been faithful. Jesus said in John 14:6, and this is in your Grow Notes and it'll also be on the screen. John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. In a world full of shifting values and emotional storms, truth is our anchor. Not feelings, not circumstances, not culture. Can I tell you today that truth has a name, and his name is Jesus. So, how do we keep standing when life throws us those curveballs? Because it's not always easy. When it's messy, uncertain, or painful. Well, we're going to lean into 4 powerful truths today that anchor us through every season and help us stand firm and unshaken. So number 1 is stand in the truth that goes before you. Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Not, you were secondhand, I thought about you after I had a cup of coffee. Not, I might know the plans I have for you, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. Proverbs 3:5-6, trust in the Lord with all of your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all of your ways, acknowledge him and he will make your paths straight. So let's be real for a minute. We don't always understand God's timeline, right? Pastor Josh said that Jesus owns everything except a watch. We want answers now. We want healing now. We want breakthrough yesterday. Sometimes the hardest part of faith is trusting God before you see that outcome. So let me tell you something. God is not stuck in your past. He is already preparing your future. He does not react to your problems. He's already working on your provision. Let's look at Joseph in Genesis 37-50. We see where Joseph was betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into a pit, sold as a slave, falsely accused, and locked in prison. Now that makes a crummy time of life, okay? That's a little harder, all those things. So if anyone had a reason to say, God, where are you? Hey, I'm still here. It was Joseph. But what did Joseph say years later after he became second in command? What you meant for evil, God meant for good. Genesis 50:20. God was ahead of Joseph. He didn't stop the betrayal, but he had already written the redemption. I want to introduce you to someone. This next slide is going to be Kathleen K. Scott. This is my grandma. My mom's on the front row and I didn't warn her about this. So, this is my grandma on my mom's side. So this is my mom's mom. She passed away in 2016, but let me tell you, she was one of the kindest people you would ever met. She knew the story of every single person she came in contact with. Her hairdresser, the person down the road. I'm pretty sure she even knew the garbage men drivers, his name, like his dog's name, all of that. And even though he only came once a week at a random time, like that's who she was. She knew your story. She wanted to know about it, and she would ask you updates. She was that person. Now, funny part, if you told her something she didn't quite agree with, she wouldn't tell you negatively. She wouldn't tell you that's a terrible idea. Her response was, that's fun. So if you heard that one, eventually you caught on like, oh, let me double check that, whatever it was. That's fun. So you could use that sometime. Nonetheless, if you knew her, you knew that she had faith in the truth. About 12 years ago, while we were in a long, painful season of waiting to have a child, she typed up a note on a pink piece of paper and laminated it for me. This is going to be the next slide. There we go. It's lived on the inside of my cabinet ever since. I want to read just a short part, the beginning and the end. It started with, Dear Nicole Elizabeth Atterbury Seabolt, born on Valentine's Day, only granddaughter. There were several comments in the middle, but the end said, don't let the turkeys get you down. When God decides to bless you with the first of 70 plus children, she put a plus sign on there, y'all, it will happen. Now, before the rumors start, we do not have 70 plus children in our house, okay? I don't have that many beds or seatbelts. But do you know what we do have? We have absolutely, definitely been privileged to be a part of people's lives and to influence more than 70 children through Generations Church. But do you know what? She wrote that before we had any answers. She wrote that pink piece of paper and laminated it for me because I'm all about the office supplies. Before 2 of our 3 children were even born. She believed God was writing a story we could not yet see. Fast forward multiple years, on August 1st, 2017, we began fostering a sibling group of 3. Their case flipped back and forth 4 times, and there was uncertainty, ginormous amounts of paperwork, and tension. But on May 15th, 2018, we adopted 3 incredible children, and this week, on Thursday, it will be 7 years since Adoption Day. Grandma didn't wait until it was certain. She declared God's truth in advance. She stood on a future promise because she trusted a God who always shows up. You may not have that paperwork signed, the breakthrough in hand, or the answer clear, but I assure you beyond a shadow of a doubt, God is already ahead of you. His truth does not expire with the season. It endures because it's rooted in his character, not your circumstances. Newsflash, but worry doesn't speed up God's timeline, just in case you're wondering. But trust will steady your heart. Additional side note, as a medical professional, let me say high blood pressure is not good for your heart. So please do not worry for more than one reason. But how do we respond to a truth that's already gone before us? We don't just believe it, we build with it. Build your home on truth. Speak truth into your children and everyone that you interact with on a daily basis. Walk into your future like it's already written, because I assure you it is. But what about when the future feels foggy and the path forward disappears? That's when you remember the same truth that leads you also will hold you, especially in the valley. Number 2, stand in the truth that holds you in the valley. Psalms 23:4, even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Romans 8:28, and we know that God causes a couple of things to work together. No, an occasional thing to work together. Or a random event on a Tuesday at 3 o'clock to work together. No, it says, and we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them. But let's not sugarcoat it. Life has some valleys. You'll walk through fear. You'll face uncertainty. You will feel the sting of loss. You'll deal with betrayal. And sometimes you lose the very thing that you prayed for. Sometimes your trust will feel thin. You'll face moments that shake your faith to the core. But hear me today. The presence of the valley does not mean the absence of God. He is not just on the mountaintop. He is the God of the middle. He is the God of not yet. And he is the God of even though. Take a moment and think. What have you lost that made you stop trusting? A job? A relationship? A dream? A loved one? What have you lost that you stopped trusting? Let's look at Ruth in the Bible. She lost her husband. She left her homeland. She followed her grieving mother-in-law to a place she had never been. She could have thrown in the towel and said, my story's over. I'm done. But she didn't. She chose to trust. She said, where you go, I will go. Your God will be my God. Ruth 1:16. And because she trusted in the valley, God brought redemption. Hey, she didn't just survive. She became the great-grandmother of King David. Out of her grief came a legacy. Out of her loss came a lineage that would eventually lead to Jesus. That's what God can do in the valley. After graduating with my master's in speech and language pathology, 6 years of school, 2 major exams, everything lined up. It was gorgeous. Done, graduating, had a job lined up. It looked perfect. My plan looked real cool. 3 months into it, I lost that first job due to circumstances way beyond my control. It was devastating. It was like, hey, I just finished all this and now you're telling me I'm done. What am I going to do? How could this possibly be God's plan? This was my plan. It was perfect. What I couldn't see almost 13 years ago, I can see clearly today. Now in my career on a daily basis, I have the privilege of equipping team members across multiple states. I get to lead with purpose and help create culture and hopefully reflect Christ to everyone I come in contact with. I thought it was rejection, but in reality, it was redirection. God doesn't just meet you on the mountaintop. He walks with you through the lowest places and he never, ever lets go. Jesus said, in the world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. John 16:33. No matter what, please do not let that valley become your identity. Walk on, keep standing. You are not alone. I've walked through seasons where everything looked fine on the outside, but inside, I was questioning everything. Maybe that's you today. Let's talk about it. Point number 3, stand in the truth that is greater than your feelings. Proverbs 4:23, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. 2 Corinthians 10:15, we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. We've often said this before here at Generations, feelings are real, but they are not always right. They can tell you how you feel, but not necessarily what's true. They're not the enemy, but they're not supposed to be in charge either. You're going to have those moments where fear creeps in. You're going to have moments where anxiety rises, moments where you don't feel strong, loved, or even seen. But here's the truth. Your feelings are not your Lord. Jesus is. They don't define you. They don't lead you. Truth should lead. Feelings should follow. Not always simple, but a good reminder that I still have to work on sometimes. So let's see how Jesus handled that. Let's go to the Gospel of Luke right before Jesus was arrested. So he had finished dinner with his disciples, what we call the Last Supper. He knew what was coming next: betrayal, torture, a brutal death on the cross. So he went to a quiet garden to pray. The Bible said he began to sweat drops of blood. He was staring down the cross, so of course he felt it. And in the middle of that moment, Jesus prayed, Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me. But then he said something that changed everything. Not yet my will, but yours be done. Jesus didn't pretend he wasn't feeling anything. He didn't shove down his emotions, but he didn't let them lead either. Because of that moment, because he stood at that time, you and I can stand forgiven, redeemed, and free today. Emotions are indicators, not navigators. Let God's word be your compass. If you've ever parented or been around kids for more than 5 minutes, you've probably heard this. Can we go to the park? Can we stay up late? Can I have dessert for breakfast? Or can I walk to Brahms next Saturday with my friends at 1 o'clock? I've heard that last one before. Actually, I've heard all of those. And what do we say? We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. To a child, we'll see sounds like a soft no. To a parent, we'll see means I'm thinking about what's best for you. I'm looking at the full picture. I know things you don't know yet. And it's the same with God. He's not distant. He's not ignoring you. He's protecting you while he prepares you. You may be in a will see season right now. you're praying, you're hoping, you're waiting. I assure you, Jesus has you. Hebrews 12:2, fix your eyes on Jesus. Colossians 3:2, set your mind on things above. When emotions rise, go to the Word. When fear speaks, declare God's promises. When your soul feels shaken, stand anyway. Because the truth of God is greater than the weight of your feelings. And that same Spirit that strengthened Jesus in the garden is in you. You were not called to only survive your own storm. You were also called to stand for others in their storms. Because sometimes the greatest strength we show isn't standing for ourselves, but standing in the gap for someone else. Number 4 brings us to stand in the gap for others. Ezekiel 22:30, I looked for someone who would stand before me in the gap. Some of you are called to stand, not just for yourself, but for others. You may be standing for a prodigal child, a spouse who's struggling, a friend who's far from God. Can I assure you that your prayer matters? Your stand matters. Let's talk about Esther. She was a young Jewish woman living in a foreign land, essentially an orphan, raised by her cousin Mordecai. Through a series of unexpected events, she was chosen to be queen, married to the king. But this wasn't a Disney fairy tale. This was not a dream come true. It was actually a divine setup. Because shortly after she became queen, a wicked man named Haman, who was second in control, convinced the king to issue a law to wipe out all of the Jews in the land. These were Esther's people. She had a choice to make. She could stay silent. She could protect her comfort, her position, and hope the problem went away. Or she could stand in the gap for her people. But it came with a cost. Even in those days, you could not approach the king without being summoned, even if you were his wife. Doing so meant death. So what did Esther do? She fasted, she prayed, she asked her people to do the same, and then she stood up. She walked into the throne room, risking her own life, and the king welcomed her. She exposed Haman's evil plan and boldly pleaded for her people's lives. Because she stood in the gap, her people were saved. Esther was a young woman who said yes to God in the middle of a crisis. Mordecai told her, who knows, maybe you were born for such a time as this. Esther 4:14. Can I tell you something today? Maybe you were too. Maybe you were born for such a time as this. Maybe you are not in your workplace by accident. Maybe you are not in your family by chance. Maybe you are not in your school by accident. Maybe you are not in this church for no reason. Worship team, could you come back up? I assure you today, you have been placed on purpose for a purpose. To stand, to intercede, to speak life, to pray the heavens down. You may not feel like you have much to offer, but neither did Esther. All she had was faith, and that was enough. So today, stand in the gap for your family, for your community, for this generation, for every generation that is here today. Because your stand might be the very thing God uses to rescue someone. Hebrews 13:8 says, Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He doesn't change. He hasn't changed. He won't change. He was with you then, he is with you now, and I assure you he will be with you always. And it's not because it's going to be simple. It's not because everything is perfect, but because his truth still stands, and when his truth stands, you can too. Will you stand with me this morning? Today might find you in a we'll see season, in a valley, on the edge of giving up or just holding it together. Then today is your day. Let God strengthen your stand. Stand in his presence. Let truth arise again. Let the word speak louder to you than your feelings. Let the Spirit remind you you are not standing alone. Let's